Hey, Tony Gaskins here. I wanted to pop in. I seen this post and it was talking about things that turn women off, things that turn men off, and this is something that oftentimes is misunderstood and not oftentimes talked about just because it's hard as men to speak the truth to women because sometimes a man's truth is very hard to hear. The same way a woman's truth may be very hard to hear for a man. But we are humans. We do have likes and dislikes, preferences, standards, all of those things. But one of the things that I want women to understand is there is such a thing as a real man of God that does exist. And a man of God is, in essence, a man who every day tries to be better than he was the day before. Meaning, a man of God has a feeling in his heart where he wants to be pure in the sight of God. He wants to live righteous. Man of God does not mean completely healed. It does not mean perfect. It does not mean all knowing. It does not mean above reproach or without blemish. It does not mean he will not make bad choices, bad decisions, mistakes, or whatever you call it. But a man of God is someone who is committed to righteousness. He's committed to growth. And what you have to understand is, in order for a man of God to remain in right standing with God, his life has to have structure. He has to have some parameters put in place. He cannot do any and everything. He has to live by a certain set of standards. So there's things that are gateway drugs to other things. And a man of God stays away from the gateway. So if a man needs discipline and he needs self-control in order to live a righteous lifestyle, he's not going to do a bunch of things that take away that discipline, that sacrifice, and that self-control. So a lot of times that's why women don't understand when I say, well, these men of God don't like these traits in certain women. And a woman may be like, oh, well, I'm a woman of God. You know, I love the Lord. But fail to realize that a man is a creature of habit. So when a man is into something, he's all the way in. Like he is obsessed with it. When a man gets into something, think about a man who loves cars. He is always under the hood of a car. He is always looking for parts, getting parts. Every free moment, he is under that hood. Think about a man who loves shoes. Every paycheck, every dime he get, he looking for the next shoe. He love to collect shoes. A man who is into sports, he can sit down on a game day. Like right now, I'm watching one of my teams that I mentor, Kansas State men's basketball. They playing right now, and I'm shooting a video. And that's because I'm not like obsessed with sports. Like I'm watching, they losing by 2 right now. It's the second half, so I keep looking up. But I'm doing my work at the same time. While they working, I'm working. But men who are obsessed with sports, they'll sit down and they don't want you to talk to them. Do not walk in front of the TV. Don't bother them. The baby could cry. Everything could break loose. And they watching that game, that football, cricket, basketball, whatever it is they into, baseball, they locked in. And that's what I try to help women understand is a man is different than a woman. So where a woman can have more freedom and more balance and more, you know, call herself a woman of God, but still get drunk on Saturday, still curse, still be, fornicating from time to time, but yet say she's a woman of God, and then doesn't understand why a man of God doesn't want her because she curses or because she dresses like a prostitute or like a stripper, and she's showing too much cleavage, she's showing too much booty, too much skin, and she's like, I'm a good catch, I'm a woman of God, and she being passed over by men of God, because what she's failing to understand is that a man is a different type of creature. So a woman who smokes weed is different than a man who smokes weed. A woman who gets drunk is different than a man who gets drunk. A woman who curses is different than a man who curses. When a man does something, it has total different implications and also consequences than when a woman does it. It's not the same thing. Because let's use cursing for an example. I heard the quote said, the more a person curses, the less sensitive they become to their behavior. So a woman may use the F word and be like a cursor, but that doesn't mean she'll go out and cheat on her man. A man who curses truly becomes less sensitive to his behavior, and him cursing leads to more foolishness or more violence, and it has different implications. A woman may smoke weed and still get up and go to work every day, do everything, still shave, take care of herself. A man may start to smoke weed, and because he has a different fat count, a different body mass, it may become a gateway to where now he wants to lace it with something, or now he wants the weed and the alcohol at the same time, or now he wants a pill, because his tolerance it grows and it's much higher. A man also being an addictive personality, if you notice, a lot of the gamblers are men. There's women who gamble and stuff like that, but when a man really gets into gambling, if a man and woman gamble the same amount, if you study those people, you'll notice that the man will be willing to risk more. He'll put up pink slips, like he will do more. He will leverage everything, like he will go to no end. Like there are millionaire men, like you could look at the rappers like Drake, and he'll post like a $100,000 bet, 50,000, 75,000, 200,000, 300,000. We've never once seen a millionaire woman ever post the receipt of a bet that she did for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Think about it. Floyd Mayweather posting receipts all the time of like insane bets. We've heard the stories of Michael Jordan gambling habits and the way he spend like 10 million a year gambling. And these men have everything. Like, what are you gambling for? You don't need any more money. It's just for thrill. It's just for sport. And so that's why I try to explain to women that a man of God is going to be much more picky. He's going to be much more strict, because it's so common for men to watch porn. Like men are at work watching porn. Like men are driving down the street watching porn. Like men on their work break go to the bathroom, put on a porno, masturbate into the toilet, then go back to work, shaking hands. Like it's so normal. Like I would imagine there's some women who go to the bathroom and masturbate, but it could be a woman who, she was turned out as a child and she needs that release. Like that release does something for her. But there are men who do that on the regular. Just go to the bathroom at break, boop, 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 30 seconds, spill into the toilet, flush it, put it up, go right back to work. And there's men who will do that 3 times, 5 times a day. And men are different than women. And so that's why a lot of times a woman will get offended when a man of God says he will never be with a woman that curses. But almost every woman curses. And then they say, well, it's so many women who curse and they married, but you don't know their husband. You don't know if their husband watches porn. You don't know if their husband cheats on them. You don't know if their husband has a work wife. So whatever a man is willing to concede, whatever he will give up and allow himself to be okay with his woman, that behavior, if it's cursing, if it's getting drunk, if it's smoking. And when I say smoking, like vaping, I see a lot of women now vaping, especially when I was over in England. Man, so many women was vaping or like smoking cigarettes. Well, a man of God doesn't want a woman who smokes. But there are women who call themselves a woman of God and they go to church and they smoke. And they be like, what's the problem? What's the issue? Like, me smoking doesn't mean I'm going to be a cheater. And me smoking doesn't mean I'm going to be a bad wife or this or that. But not realizing that to a man, smoking and cursing and getting drunk and going to the club and gambling and dressing inappropriately or explicitly, all of these things are implications to other things. And these things lead to other things. So therefore, a man views it differently than a woman views it. And it becomes very shocking and alarming. But a lot of times what women don't realize is that a lot of women become less sensitive to their mouth and what they say and how they carry themselves. They become less sensitive to it because of their influence by men. Like they're around their brothers, their uncles, their dad. They're around all of these different men. And so this influence, it starts to affect them. So it's a lot of women who call themselves like, hey, I'm more close to guys than I am to women, and I'd rather hang with the boys, but not realizing that hanging with the boys, a woman will pick up bad habits, inappropriate behavior, and start speaking inappropriately, acting inappropriately, dressing inappropriately. And there are women who are, beautiful, successful, but have a very filthy mouth. Like use the F word, the S word, like just curse like normal, like regular, and say like, hey, these women are saying, hey, I want a good man, like I want a good man, but not understanding that for a man to have sex is like the easiest thing in the world. And a lot of guys got mad about this truth that I'm telling because of the man code. Men can't even tell the truth, even in comments on social media. Most men, 90% of men, can't tell the truth because of the man code, the G code, the man law, whatever you want to call it. But so what a woman don't understand is that for a man, having sex is the easiest thing in the world. So that's like that number one tick, that number one drive is a sexual drive. And a lot of women have experienced that, of like a man always being horny, always wanting sex, like almost really could want sex every day or multiple times a week. And then a lot of women have experienced like not wanting sex all the time, to where, got a headache, stomach ache, or just wanting just normal companionship without getting, you know, down and dirty all the time. And but not paying attention to that very difference between men and women. And so if a man, if you know that sex is so in demand for men, to where so many men are porn addicts and so many men are, masturbators, and so many men are womanizers or cheaters or, paying for illicit things. If you know that, what you have to realize is, for a man to break that, he has to have extreme discipline. He has to be very regimented. He has to be very disciplined. And he can't indulge in anything or engage in anything that will change his behavior, that will weaken his focus and his behavior. So therefore, if a man is cursing all the time, what that means is he's getting more loose. He's what they call a flip at the mouth. He getting more mannish, more fresh, more loose lipped, more flip at the mouth. And so everything affects everything. So if a man is very loose, flip, fresh, then guess what? That means his guards are down. That means he's not as focused. He's not as diligent, dedicated. So therefore, this man who curses like a sailor could go out and be at the restaurant. You know, he could be at the line getting food at Chipotle, and Chipotle sent me a check. And there's a very cute waitress or, worker, and he starts to flirt. And then the next thing you know, by the end of the counter, she writes her number down on a little piece of paper, puts it on top of his food. But he was so flip at the mouth from cursing so much that he was just easily able to just flow right into this flirtatious conversation. And see, these are the small things that those of us who study human behavior realize that people who don't study human behavior don't pick up on. These are, like the Bible say, the small fox spoils the vine. The Bible says a little bit of leaven leaveneth the whole lump. So it's the small things that you think are insignificant that end up having a very big impact and causing something major to happen. But it was the small thing. So like that little conversation on text message that you have with your coworker of the opposite sex ends up becoming an emotional affair, and then one day a physical affair. But it started out as a small back and forth about the job or the assignment that you're doing at work. It's the small things. So therefore, in order for a man to remain faithful and committed, he has to be focused and he has to be dedicated. So anything that he does that can open up a window to something else, it can end up costing his relationship. And so this is why men of God today are becoming so very picky, because a man needs a woman. A man of God wants a woman of God who's going to be an asset and not a liability. So what I mean by that is, if a man's woman curses, then she is mixing profanity with a supposedly sacred heart. So then that profanity leads to foolishness. It leads to jesting and jiving. It leads to violence. It leads to ignorance. It leads to all these other things that rubs off onto the man. That opens the man up. Now these curse words, when you get into an argument, these curse words become weapons. Now the cursing is weaponized, and now there's name calling, and you cursing each other out. The cursing each other out turns into a screaming and shouting match. The screaming and shouting match turns into pushing and shoving. Then it turns into slapping and punching. Next thing you know, you have a full-on brawl, and it's solely because the two of you curse. And that is where you have to look at the connections of these so-called insignificant behaviors. It's these little things that the devil is in the details. And so many people say, oh, that doesn't mean anything. It's nothing wrong with smoking weed. It's nothing wrong with taking a little pill on the weekend for fun, to relax. It's nothing wrong with cursing. It's nothing wrong with fornicating. It's nothing wrong with having an open marriage. It's nothing wrong with a threesome. It's nothing wrong with getting drunk every now and then. And so all of these things that are seen as so small and insignificant, they actually have grave implications, and they turn into very big ordeals. And so that is why you will notice when you meet true men of God, they don't have a woman who curses, who gets drunk, who smokes, who dresses inappropriately. These true men of God, they have a woman who lives like they live. And when you meet a true man of God, you're going to meet a man of discipline. He's going to be disciplined. He's going to be focused. He's going to be different. So he's not going to do the same things that other men do. He's going to separate himself and stand apart. Does not mean that he's perfect, meaning he may not be head to toe a complete bill of health, meaning he may not have a six-pack, or he may have a six-pack, but he may still eat McDonald's sometimes. But it's not what goes in his mouth that defiles him, is what comes out of his mouth that defiles him, as Jesus Christ says in the Holy Bible. So what this man is really, really working on, and what he's focusing on, is his spirit. He's working on his spirit, man. And he's working on walking with the Holy Spirit, but then he's enlightening himself in every area of life, and he's evolving as a person. He's growing as a person. So he's working on his health spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. He's becoming healthy across the board, and he has a relentless pursuit of this healthiness. He is pursuing these things, and therefore, because he understands his woman is his helpmeet, and he understands that his woman will have more influence in his life than any other person. This woman will end up with more influence than his mother, their daughter that they have, or son that they have, his best friend, his boss, his co-worker. This woman will become the greatest influence in his life. And if she is not on the same page, if they are not on one accord, if she does not want the things of God the way he wants the things of God, to the level that he does, or even on a greater level, it will not work. And so this is why men of God today are becoming more and more selective. And the men who aren't, they aren't men of God. But they may say they're a man of God, just like there's a lot of women who say that they are women of God, but they aren't really women of God. Because you will know the tree by the fruit it bears. You cannot get bad fruit from a good tree. You cannot get good fruit from a bad tree. And so you got to realize and understand that. And as you start to put this together, that's when you'll start to realize that, okay, yes, this man of God, okay, got it done. That's nice. You did that?
Yeah, my mom had me do mine.
Looks I love it.
What the other hair I had going on.
Okay, dog. Hello, how you doing?
No,
No, it's okay. It's okay.
That's natural.
Yeah.
Family man likes to show what's going on inside him.
Right. Okay, T. Hey, nah, behave yourself.
Alright, chill.
Hey, I was thinking you a rapper.
I'm not.
Gotta keep an eye on him. I'll be back. God bless you.